We'd like to welcome everybody, the very few, the very, very proud, right? To Rocketdyne Road this Wednesday evening. If you would please stand and join us in song. Away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus no crying he makes. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky and stay by my cradle till morning is nigh. Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Sing, choirs of angels, sing in exaltation. Oh, sing, all ye bright hosts of heaven above. Glory to God, all glory in the highest. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. When angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by, born that men no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Please be seated.
Now, yeah, now definitely I can hear all that. Don't move. All right. feel like I'm way back out of this. Before we go to class, I wanted to share something with you that happened today that's really kind of amazing. I was going to kind of wait and finish the deal with this and all, but I know a lot of you know that, and I got permission from the family to talk about this tonight and all like that. But Ralph Bedill's been in the hospital for about 10 or 12 days and all like that. Had a bowel blockage and had surgery, and then had surgery, and then had surgery, and the family has just been undergoing a tremendous amount of stress, a great deal of difficulty deciding where to go from now, you know, and it kind of got down to where, you know, there's only a couple of real options left: to just try aggressively and just keep going and keep going and keep going, or just call it quits on that and let everything take its course. So his son Ben has been here. Ben is a part of the physician's assistant program, teacher down at Harding, and Ben has been with the family. I've never met Ben before, and I've missed him every time that I've been up there. But he had been texting me a lot of stuff back and forth, and the family had just been under a lot of duress trying to figure out what to do with all of this. Well, Ben showed me a picture today of an event that happened yesterday, and it's just amazing. So the family had been together trying to figure out, you know, what to do. I'd kind of been trying to translate some of the medicalese with them and to tell them why they were doing things and all like that. But Ben said he, late in the afternoon, went out and was looking at, from across the courtyard, was looking at Ralph's window, the hospital room in the window and all. And he got a picture, and this is what was on there. That's Ralph's hospital room, and that is a reflection of a stained glass that is completely across a courtyard and across a hall and on the north side out by where the helicopter is parked. And he was showing me that, and he said, I looked back at Ralph's room, and this was reflected in there. And when I left today, I walked over there, and I thought, you can't even see Ralph's room from there. I mean, there's a little bitty tiny thing. If you get just exactly right, you can see that. And he said, this was just shown up in the sun like that. And he said, you know, all at once, he said, I knew that everything was going to be all right. And, you know, I can't see that is anything but a message on that. It's just almost impossible for it to happen any other way. But I think that is so remarkable, and that's one of the things I want to talk about tonight, and all like that. But I thought everybody needs to see that before we go to class, because I really think that God and the Spirit, when we're under duress and all like that, God sends somebody or something to reassure us. I've seen it happen so many times, but this just amazed me and all that. And when you look at it, it wasn't something it just kind of happened I don't think for any reason. I think that you have to, when you look and see where this thing came from, I think you have to realize that this is supernatural to happen that way. So anyway, before everybody goes to class, let's go ahead and pray. Father God, we're just thankful that you're a loving God, and thankful that you care for us. And Father, at this time especially, we wish that you would ask for your comfort and your care for Ralph and Sherry Medill and their family. And Father, just let them know that you love them, and that you have wonderful things for Ralph. And I know that's going to be hard for their family in the next few days, and just Father, give them strength, give them comfort, and Father, let them know that all of us are praying for them, and that it matters that what you have in store for them, that it's a great future life for Ralph and for all the rest of us when we meet with him. Father, we just pray that you'll be with this congregation here tonight, with every member of the congregation, and Father, with the cold weather coming in, just keep everybody from harm, and pray that we'll come through all of that safely. And Father, at this time of the year when we're recognizing the gift of your Son to the world, we're just so thankful for all of that and for all he means to us. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. Okay. When I told Ty I would take his class, because they're Ty and, let's see, Let's and, I'm sorry, you're dismissed for class. But anyway, I thought I was going to talk about something about Christmas and all, but I think about everything has been said about Christmas that could be said just about and all like that. And then all of this stuff came up lately within about the last 10 days and all. And then I was going to talk about Isaiah, and I was going to talk a whole lot about things. And I'd kind of been praying about, what I needed to say. And this, some of the things that have happened in the last week or so have just weighed real heavily on me, and I think that I wanted to share those because this is going to be pertinent to every one of us and all like that. And a lot of the stories and the things I'm going to say are not necessarily with any one specific person. It's kind of my experience over 45 years, and I think probably most everybody knows I was a ER physician for 45 years, and in the middle of a lot of that stuff, and saw a lot of sickness and saw a lot of dying, and participated in a lot of that. And I've been at the bedside of a lot of people, Christian and non-Christian, for several years. And there's just, there's several things that I've noticed and that I've learned and all that I think are probably appropriate for all of us to think about, like that. There's so many things. We talk about deaths sometimes in church, and talk about the mansion that's prepared for us, or our house of the house with many rooms, or mansions, or however you want to do that and all. But we almost never talk about the process of getting there, and that's something that every one of us are going to go through. I mean, if you're, and I think it's unlucky, if you're unlucky enough to just die all at once and all like that. I mean, there's some advantage to that, but you don't get to tell your family bye. You don't get to do any of that kind of stuff. So from what I've observed, and these are just my observations and all that, but I think it's helpful on some of that some of the things that all of us need to think about and all of us need to do, and we need to do it really kind of now, while we've got good communication skills, and while we're able to think, and while we're not under the duress. I've seen and been in the middle of many families that have failed to discuss any of that stuff. They have no idea what mom or dad or son or daughter or whoever's about to die, what their wishes are, what they feel about any of that kind of stuff. And even worse than that, half the family wants one thing and the other half of the family wants the other thing like that. And I mean, literally there are fights over what gets to be done on that, and lots of hard feelings. People don't like to discuss anything like that. I don't like to discuss things like that either, but I think every one of us, while we have the chance, needs to sit down with our families and our loved ones and say, when this happens, and it's not if it happens, because it's going to happen. And you look at the age of 2/3 of us right here, it's going to happen sooner rather than later, and all like that. And our families need to know what we want to be done and not have to guess on it. Ralph had talked to Sherry several times and to his family, and before they went into the cancer surgery the first time 10 or 12 days ago, he told his family exactly what he wanted. And he said, and again, they've given me permission to say this and all like that, but he said, I told him that if there wasn't a chance for me coming out of it in reasonably good condition, and if I was going to be just on and on and on and totally disabled or incapacitated the rest of my life, he said, I'm ready to go. And I think that's something that every family member needs to hear from somebody. In fact, that's something that every one of us needs to be sure that we are ready to go, because we don't ever know what day. We may not have tomorrow, we may not have the next day, and that's the most important thing that we've got in our life, is to know that we're ready to go. And I think just watching that family and a lot of other families that I know of that are Christians, watching them go through very, very difficult times like this, it makes all the difference in the world, as opposed to some of the families that you watch that don't have any hope, that they don't know God, they don't know Jesus, they don't know anything. I mean, and it's just the end of the world for them as far as they're concerned. It's not the end of the world, but it's going to be a bad outcome on that. And so to watch Christian families when they deal with something like this, it doesn't mean that it's easy for them on that at all, but there is such a difference in the way that they can respond, because they know that this is just a transition. This is not the end of everything. We're going to see that, and to watch families like that being able to interact like that, to watch families being able to share their beliefs in Jesus and in an afterlife and these things like that. Ben sent me probably 10 or 12 different scriptures every day on that, and it just, reassuring. It not only reassures him, but it reassures the family and everybody else and all like that. That's part of, Jimmy mentioned last week on singing and all like that. That's part of what we do when we sing and when we worship together and all. We teach and reassure everybody. We share that this is my belief and this is your belief, and we build up and edify each other when we do that thing. And so we need to share with our family, and we need to let them know what we want. We need to let them know, do we want everything in the world done no matter what? Because there's a lot of people that want that done, and there's a lot of people that basically said, I'm ready to go. If God's ready to call me home right now, and I haven't got a decent life as defined by me, waiting for me for a while and all like that, then I'm ready to go and all like that. And so it was really, really wonderful to see that family, and I've seen many, many other families to do the same, to rely on God, to share their faith with one another, and actually be stronger and more reassured of that. One of the things that it seems like that I've noticed too, I'm showing you this picture and all, and it's just been amazing, but it seems like in the families that I have been involved with, that God always sends something to reassure people. I mean, I've had people tell me many, many times, somebody came to see me and, comforted me greatly, or something happened and all like that reassured me that everything was going to be okay and all like that. I've never seen anything like this, but I've heard probably 50 or 75 people say somebody came to see me and they were able to support me, to reassure me, and to help me through this. And one of the other things that I wanted to kind of make a point of, and this is kind of rambling, I started to try to write down an outline of all this kind of stuff, but gave up halfway through. So it's kind of a lot of random thoughts and just things that I've experienced and things that I've seen and all like that. But one of the other things that I think that we need to realize is that each and every one of us can be a blessing to somebody in a time like this. And again, all of us are going to go through this. It's not, I can't overemphasize that. And we need to be prepared for it. And it's one of the, I think, the biggest things that we can do as a Christian family and as a Christian community is to help each other at times like this. And it doesn't take 40 or 50 people to go up and see somebody like that. But a lot of times, one or two people can make all the difference in the world. And I think we need to really make an effort when people and families are going to a time like this, to somebody that knows them and that they trust and have a relationship with, that spend some time with them and let them talk and let them share their fears, their concerns, their grief, all of those things. I used to avoid situations like that a lot, and it's really, really uncomfortable because I thought, I don't know what to say. I want to say something to fix it. And, you finally have to come to the realization there's not anything you're going to say to fix it. God has said a few things that'll fix it. And all he said, I've gone to prepare a place for you so that, where I am, there you'll be. And sharing those type of things is very, very comforting. Some of the things that he mentions in 1 Thessalonians and the 5th chapter and 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, talking about Jesus' second coming, that those that are in the grave and those that have gone on before us, we're not going to precede them. They'll be there before we do, or they'll rise before we are. But and he says, comfort each other with those type of things and all like that. So it took me a long time to learn that I don't have to have special words or special anything like that. Just knowing that you care, just knowing that you can sit there and let people talk and encourage them to talk about how they feel and what what's going on, what their fears are and those things like that, and again reassuring them that as a Christian we know that this is just a transition, that it's something that all of us have to go through, and on the other side of it we're going to be so much better. That you don't have to get crass and say, well, it's a good thing he's going to die because he's going to go to heaven now. You can be a little more polite or whatever. I can't think of the word I want to use, but anyway, you can be a little more sensitive than that kind of a thing like that. But to reassure people that you care, that they're loved, that they're respected and things. And I can't tell you how many people I've heard that literally say, well, Mary Jones came up to see me and spent some time with me, and it made all the difference in the world. And I think every one of us need to realize that there are people that we can affect their lives, and we can make this passage just a whole lot easier for them to do that. And so to get involved with people's lives. Again, I'd mentioned about be sure and talk to your family about what you want. And to try to make sure that I think that it's actually a blessing to have a little bit of time before you die, to be able to see your family, to be able to tell them you love them, to be able to tell them what you want, what you enjoyed about a life, to remember things like that. And so there's just a lot of things that that you miss if you keel over dead someplace and all like that. But I just can't overemphasize that every one of us are going to go through this, and so it's not much fun to talk about it, but it makes the rest of the family so much more comfortable. You just again relying on what just happened here in the last few days and watching that, and to watch the difference in the last 2 or 3 days. And when I was with Ralph today, they basically decided they're going to go with comfort care. It just things have gone to the point where the surgeon said, there's not a whole lot else we can do on that. But just to watch the calm that came over the family on that, the kind of the distress and the anxiety and all of that kind of stuff from the last few days, and then the calm this afternoon that we know that this is in God's hands and God's going to take care of him and everything's going to be fine and all like that. And so it's actually something that you're doing for your family to make your family feel better. You're not going to make them feel worse by doing this kind of things. And so I just want to encourage that, because it's not many families talk about that kind of stuff, and not many families know what mom or dad or whoever wants to do at times like this. And with a lot of times too, it takes 1 or 2 people to kind of make a difference like that. And different people have different insights, and different people have different effects on other people. And all I kind of remember with my mother and dad with passing like that. My mom was on hospice for a few days, or a couple of weeks or so before she died, and the last day or so that when she was laying there and kind of in and out of consciousness and all, and she died at home, but she wanted to see Denny. This has been 10, 12 years ago or something like that, and she was moaning and making, I thought she was in pain, groaning and moaning, and Denny came over and watched her for a while, and he said, "She's not in pain, she's singing." And just even having a different perspective on people, getting somebody, having somebody else there to give you a different perspective on what's going on can make all the difference in the world and all like that. And that, that totally changed my outlook from, she's sitting there hurting, but she's praising God. But, I don't know, seeing Christian people die and being with them is one of the most intimate relationships, or one of the most intimate experiences that you can have. The intimacy that you have with your wife and maybe with some of your kids and all like that will surpass that. But I don't think there's anything on earth that surpasses helping somebody finish the race and helping somebody at the end of life. I mean, the feelings and the emotions and stuff that are shared and all at that time, and the things that go on like that. And so I just wanted to encourage everybody to get involved with that kind of thing and all like that, and to make yourself available, because again, we've got a lot of elderly people in the congregation, including me. But this doesn't happen to just elderly people. This happens to teenagers and young adults and everybody else and all like that too. But at times, there are some families that are very, very closed, and there are some families that don't want a lot of people involved like that. But right now, with all the texting and cards and things like that, you can still be involved and still be reassured and all like that. But we've got several people in the congregation here that are undergoing cancer therapy and other serious problems and all like that need help getting through all of that. And I just want to try to encourage people to get involved in their lives. You don't have to force yourself in. And again, it doesn't take 40 or 50 or 60 people to do all of that, but just 2 or 3 people that they know and respect. And you can carry the message from the rest of the congregation that we're praying for you. That we love you, that we respect you, and all on that. So that's kind of the strange message for tonight and all like that. But I have been texting Beth back and forth. I think again I think Beth is a kind of a private person, and I don't want to say all of nothing like that. But there's a lot of people who are private. I'm not faulting that. I don't usually want to announce everything that's going on with that and all like that. But Beth says she's having a real hard time. I've asked her if there's anything that we can do with food and all that kind of stuff, and she says no. I'm gonna get through it. I really do covet your prayers. I think I heard Sherry Medill talking to her son. No, that was them. There are some ladies here in the congregation that I think are bringing food to the Medills. I don't know for sure. Sherry never mentioned that. Beth said she didn't eat anything. She said, I don't feel like eating. I don't, right now. I'm just trying to make it through it. Pardon me? Yeah, so, but I heard from her today, and she said, I've got 2 more treatments for this week, and she said, it's just really knocking me down. So I think rather than calling and things like that, I think texting where it doesn't really bother them, or cards and all like that, just to let them know that we care. She said, I can't wait to get back and be with my family. So, but there's it's really knocking her down. So she said, I covet your prayers. So. Mm-hmm. She's never told me. I don't know. I think Beth's a pretty private person and all like that, and so she's a wonderful part of the congregation, though. She's an exemplary woman. One other thing that, as far as one other thought, a lot of, along this helping people at times like this and in times of crisis, because it's not just in death, because we have crisis come up in our life all the time and all like that when we're under duress. And I think that the church is going to be under more duress in the next few years than we've been under in years and years and years, and need to get prepared to help each other with this kind of thing. But I personally believe that so many of us think we have to preach, or we have to do something special, or we have to, lead armies, or we have to do, all of these type of things like that. And to do something great for God. And I truly believe that visiting the sick and that type of thing, and comforting people. In fact, James says true and undefiled religion is to visit the sick in their afflictions and take care of the widows and the orphans. And that is glorifying God, and that's worshiping God, and that's worth more than all the preaching, as far as I'm concerned, and being on TV and all of this kind of stuff that people give great credibility to. And if you listen, or if you remember what Jesus said about the people that he said was going to be blessed, he said, you gave me a cup of water. You visited me when I was in prison. You did little bitty nothing things like that. And that's the thing that stood out. He didn't say you conquered nations, or you held big rallies and you baptized 4,000 people in one night. You did all that. He didn't mention any of that kind of stuff. He mentioned the everyday stuff that we do to take care of one another. And I truly believe that those type of things are every bit as valuable as leading armies or preaching in Madison Square Garden or whatever. And I think a lot of us discount those things. Told Karen a lot of times, I think the job of being a mother and raising faithful children and raising children is probably one of the greatest gifts that you can give God, one of the greatest acts of worship that you can give God, and to do things like that. And yet most of that stuff is not acknowledged today. Most of it's kind of disregarded. It's not really worth much. But if you're on the receiving end of that kind of things and all like that, it's worth everything in the world. It's worth more than lots of money and all this other fancy stuff that you can give people. That's at least my opinion on what I've seen on that. Ray, I'll get Ray, now get you. Okay. That's another thing that needs to be done. Go ahead, and I'll get raised. There is a list that on Sunday morning, several of the elders and other people get together at 9 o'clock and pray for actually a big long list of people and mention them by name. A lot of stuff that's out on push, and I know that I've sent in some things for people on push, you kind of have to ask them what they will allow to be said on that, and that kind of restricts a lot of that kind of things and all. And I think a lot of those people probably wouldn't mind if you contacted them specifically on those things like that, but a lot of people don't want every intimate detail of what's going on mentioned. So we're kind of limited on push on that kind of thing, and sometimes we don't even know about it until times. And I have to admit, there's times that I've had surgery and some other things and I didn't put it on push because I'm selfish. Bill? Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I totally agree, and I've seen that happen many, many times. That somebody comes in, they've had a heart attack, they've kind of tried to resuscitate them, they're on a ventilator, and family talking about, what do you want to do? Well, he's got a living will someplace, but we don't know where it is. And you know what's in it? No. And so that really is the case. They're called advanced medical directives and all like that. And again, that's something that everybody needs to have. And you need to have it. You can get it. The hospital offers those things like that to where you can fill in the blanks on those things. But basically, it's this is what I want done if something happens to me and I can't tell you. If you have a heart attack and you're awake and you're talking and all, but in bad shape, and you can tell people and understand what's going on, then your request overrides everything else at all. But if you can't do that, you need to have somebody that you trust, not somebody that's going to inherit everything you got when you go. Just going on, but somebody that you trust, that you say, because that's what this advanced medical directive is. This says that I give Karen the legal permission to make any medical decisions for me that needs to be made if I am incapacitated. And you have to realize a lot of people are afraid to make those type of living wills like that because they're afraid that, well, they might pull all the medicine away from me and let me go and things like that. That's one of the reasons why it needs to be somebody that you trust. And you can even have it doesn't have to be a member of your family. It can be somebody else that you trust. But that doesn't take effect unless you are incapacitated and unable to speak for yourself. But it needs, so many of the medical directives that I've seen are not very specific. And it leaves a lot, what do we do in this case? What do we do in this other case like that? And I really think that you need to sit down with your family or sit down with somebody that's at least got some medical knowledge or an attorney and say, this is what I want done. If I get, if I fall and break my neck and I'm paralyzed and not going to be able to get out of the bed the rest of my life, what do I want done? On that, do I want to be bedfast for maybe the next 10, 15, 20 years? I think Karen had an uncle that had something like that had happened and was in the bed for 15 years, never was able to move, communicate with anything besides his eyes. Personally, I don't want to be around like that and all like that, and so I don't want a bunch of extraordinary care at that time. But if there's a reasonable chance that I can get back to a normal life, if I'm going to be, and this is the thing that I saw more than anything else, people were resuscitated, had a heart attack at home, you came back, you got a little bit of a heart rate going on. Those people almost never, ever leave the hospital. They may get admitted to the ER for a little while, but the survival rate out of the hospital is real low, and the survival rate, brain intact, is even lower than that. So, and that's what I've said in mind. If I don't have brain function, where I can, care for myself and that stuff, I don't want a bunch of special stuff done. And so I think you need to think about things like that. You don't have to go over everything on that, but, do I want temporary dialysis or do I want dialysis for the, rest of my life? Am I going to be bedpass and require somebody to care for me? And those things can be worded, if I'm not able to care for myself or, things like that, but it's kind of up to you, but it needs to be more specific than, if I have a bad accident or if I can't take care of myself, then I don't want anything done or I want everything done, because there's so many different things about because wanting everything done is like today, 6 more surgeries and dragging everything out for, maybe months or years or something like that, and still not even having addressed the major thing that started it and all like that. So having somebody that you can talk to but those things like that needs to be addressed, but you need to have that, and the family needs to know what you want to do. What was that?
Mother looks younger than me.
Oh.
The nurses were just having a fit because Mother said, I don't
Yeah. Another thing that people misunderstand on that, the hospital uses DNR, do not resuscitate, type things. A lot of people misunderstand that as to mean that means do not treat. And that's not what that means at all. Do not resuscitate means, and especially if you're in the hospital, you're already doing about everything they can do. And if your heart stops then, after that, unless there's some kind of a real unusual thing, the only thing that happens is that people get on your chest and start breaking ribs and take an extra 30 or 40 minutes and maybe be on a ventilator for a while. And then, if you're already in the hospital, at the time, unless it's some real unusual thing, they are already doing everything they can do before your heart stops. Like that. And again, there are some unusual situations, some surprises and things like that. But most people think do not resuscitate means don't do anything. But they're going to do everything they can to prevent that from happening. And if it happens in spite of all of that, your chances of having a good outcome are not very good and all like that. But I think on the medical directions, I think that one of the big things you need to include is brain function and all like that, because when something bad happens and you have about 4 minutes without circulation, you start having some significant brain damage. The rule of thumb is 7 minutes outside the hospital without CPR, there's 0 chance of resuscitation on those things like that. And so, but even if you've gone 4 minutes without that, but even then the out-of-hospital resuscitation, everybody thinks you do CPR and you have, everybody comes back to life. But in reality, about 7 or 8% of the people live to survive the hospital or to come out of the hospital. So when your heart stops, that means, unless if you got electrocuted or you got, something, really strange like that. But for most people, when it stops, that means something really bad is wrong, and most of the time you can't correct that in a few minutes. So, but it's one of those things, and I would address, and that's one thing that I put in mind, is that if I don't have a very good likelihood of recurring, of getting fairly normal brain function back, I don't want anything else done. But again, I think that needs to be shared with your family and actually with your family doctor and all like that. But it definitely needs to be someplace where people can get a hold of it. Because from being in the ER, if you don't know what the directive is, basically you got to go ahead and do everything, even when you realize it's futile. There's time after time after time, I knew good and well that this is rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. That's one of the ER phrases on that. But basically, you're just buying time and putting people through more misery and all. But your family or somebody needs to know, and it needs to be on file. If you're going to use whatever hospital, they need to have a file of that, because most of the time, even if you're in Colorado or something like that, the family knows you've got one at Freeman or Mercy and all, they can call back and get that within a few minutes, so that kind of a thing. But it needs to be specific. Advanced medical directives. There's several different legal things. One of them is for medical care. Another was for financial decisions and things like that. And I don't deal with those kind of things anyway, and so I can't advise you on that. But advanced medical directions are something that's going to be used very, very frequently, and it's one of the more valuable things because it really helps medical people's decision making if you've got it down there that, yes, I want this done, or no, I don't want this done. And a lot of people will say everything, I don't want to be intubated. I don't want a tube put down my throat and ventilated like that, because depending on what the situation is, there's sometimes that really, really, really helps. There's a lot of times that you're just, putting people through a few hours of misery or a few days of misery or something like that. And so, but it gives them, and you can specify in that, if I have a reasonable chance of surviving this intact, then I want all of this stuff done. But if I don't, then I don't want to put my family through it, and I don't want to put me through it, and all like that. So anyway, that's called an advanced medical directive. And again, you can get the forms. Any of the hospital have those things like that, and they encourage you to fill them out, but most of them are not very specific. You can add your own additions to those things like that. Under these circumstances, I want this done. Under these, I don't want this done, and things like that. But just make sure you talk to your family about it ahead of time. It just makes it so much easier for them to go through that. Anybody else have any comments or questions or?
My favorite older ladies that taught me an awful lot about mine. I was pretty young and went up and speaking to her, and she says, I'm dying here. And I said, oh, no, you're not. You're trying to fix everything. She said, yes, I am, and don't tell me why.
Yeah.
And I just love that, because you've got to listen to where they are.
Yeah. I agree, and I had that same experience. This has been probably 20 years ago. We had a lady, an elderly lady that I went to visit her, and she says, I'm ready to go. I don't want all this. I've been sick for a long time. I'm ready to go. And I was taught in medicine, when elderly people say that, they're just depressed. And they need counseling, they need that stuff. Well, I found out lately, no, they're not just all, some of them may be depressed, but I mean, literally at my stage right now, I can see I'm ready to go. If something bad happens to me, I'm ready to go. And I learned that. One other thing that's really kind of interesting is that I think another experience I had, this is with a man that had been an elder in the church and been a member of the church for years and years, and ever since I'd known him and went over to see him. He had esophageal cancer, and he was dying. And not long before he died, we were sitting there talking, and he said, Jim, I really hope that all this stuff is true. And, it's kind of struck me that, wow. And I think that probably at some time, every one of us are going to have thoughts like that. I absolutely believe with all my heart that everything in the Bible is true, and every promise that Jesus Christ made for us is going to be true. But when it really comes down to it, I think probably all of us are going to at least have to say, I hope that this is true, because we don't have any absolute proof that it's true. It's faith that it's true. And I think the Holy Spirit, but I think this is one of those times when the Holy Spirit can send somebody to you and say, it's absolutely true. You don't have to worry about that, and that you can it's a way of comforting each other. And I guess the big point I want to make on everything tonight is realize that each and every one of us can be a comfort to somebody. I can't comfort everybody. Brian can't comfort everybody. Bill, none of us can comfort everybody, but every one of us have got a relationship with somebody to be able, and this is a wonderful time to share your faith, when at the end of everything, they're under stress, they may be doubting, they need extra reassurance on those things and so it's a wonderful time to minister to other people. And so much seemed like it's happened the last 3 or 4 weeks with so much of this stuff. It just kind of over and over, and we've got lots of people in the congregation here that are sick with other things. We've been blessed during the last, our board, not many names on that lately. But there's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of us that are going to be there one of these days. And again, that's one thing I think that all of us have to realize. This is going to happen to all of us. And I think, in my experience, the more you go through it with somebody else, I think it's going to benefit you when your turn comes. because every one of us, one of these days, are going to hear somebody say, you got cancer and it's not curable, or you got this, or you're at the end of what's going on like this. And I think all of us need not to depress yourself or anything like that, but just to realize that this is the curse from the garden. We're all going to die. That's a part of human being. But what we have waiting for us, and I actually think even it's a bad word to say die. All of us are going to transition and all like that. Paul in Thessalonians said, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of heaven. So we can't go to heaven with this body. We're going to get a brand new one. And a lot of us that's got bodies that's worn out are kind of looking forward to that. It's kind of interesting. Sherry said, Ralph said a little earlier, I guess Ralph was a pretty good football player in his past and all like that. He said, I just want to be able to run again and jump again and do all of those kinds of things like that. And again, it was nice. I mean, it was wonderful for me to watch that interaction between her and Ralph at that time. Another thing that just came to mind, and this is something that I've seen many, many times. People, a lot of times when they are apparently unconscious and unresponsive, can hear. Hearing apparently is the last sense that goes and all. And just sitting there today, watching Ralph basically had a tube in, was intubated, and was really heavily sedated, because he was in a lot of pain. But the family was talking to him and telling him all kinds of things like that. They would ask him, are you in pain, and something like this, and he was able to kind of squeeze a hand or something like that. But they were able to recount other things like that and all. And Ralph was able to respond to that, even though you couldn't tell by looking at him that he even knew anything was going on. But he was able. And I remember, who was it that used to sit in front of us up here, the little lady that was in hospice down in, she sat next to Jim. Mary Bilby. I remember the last time I saw Mary Bilby and all like that. Mary was pretty well out of it, but she could still respond and understand it, to hearing. And so I think that's another thing. If with your family members or with anybody else, talk to them. Tell them that you love them. Tell them, all of these things. You can talk to them. They can hear. I've been amazed at how many people that I thought were dying and talked to later on, and they survived whatever was going through there. And they came back and said, I could hear every word my family said, and I could hear them talking to me, and I could hear these things like that. And that's pretty well documented, that's the last sense that goes, is hearing. So, again, if you get a chance, reassure people, sing to them. A lot of people find hymns, things like that, comforting at that time. But they can hear, and they can hear your voices and hear you say you love them and you care for them. So remember that, too, that you don't have to just sit there in silence and all. You can talk to them just like they were there, because a lot of times they will hear. And I think that's a lot of comfort to the family, to realize that they're able to realize that and to know that you love them, that you care for them, and that you're with them at that time. But it's just it's a difficult time in everybody's life. It's one of the most difficult things I think that families go through. But like I said before, I really think that if you're a friend of the family or a confidant of the family or close to the family, it's one of the most intimate experiences that you can have with another person or with a family and all like that. And so don't avoid it just because you don't know what to say, because there's nothing you're going to say that's going to fix it. I have a hard time wanting to fix stuff, and you can't fix that stuff. So, but just being there and reassuring them, you don't have to say anything. Just listen. Allow them to talk. A lot of people want to talk and want to, express their fears or express, all of those things like that. And just having somebody that they can talk to and listen. So that's what I would encourage, you to think about and to get involved with that, because it's going to happen to all of us. Well, appreciate letting me ramble tonight, but prayed that I didn't know what I was going to talk about, and I had 3 or 4 different things like that. And this just came up, and I just felt like God was putting that on my mind for tonight. I really do believe that the Holy Spirit intervenes in our lives much more than we ever know. And if we'll pay attention to it, we'll allow him. But you can be that same message to somebody. People that I can't, people that Brent can't, people that, anybody else. But every one of us have got people that we relate to like that we can show that same message from the Holy Spirit. And like I mentioned before, I think the last thing I want to leave everybody with, I truly believe that in everybody's life at this time, if you've got time, that the Spirit, and if you're under duress, the Spirit will send somebody to bring comfort to you in some way, with a song, with a spirit, or with a song, with scriptures of reassurance, with just comfort, with just being there, with something. He's not going to send, I don't think, a sign like this to everybody, because I've never seen that before in my life, and it was just really impressive to me. But I think that in every instance like this, for a faithful person and for a family like this, that God is going to send something to reassure you that it's all right, and that we need to look at that as this is a passage. This is not the end of everything. This is actually the beginning of the best promise that we can ever imagine. And so I think that that's one other thing that Sherry said, Ralph said today. She says, I want to be able to finish strong. And I think that's, that's another message we need to remember. I've had 2 or 3 people that I thought were strong Christians that have basically abandoned Christ during the last part of their life and basically rejected all that, which is one of the saddest things I can imagine. But the most wonderful thing that I think anybody can say at the end of their life or a time like this is what Paul says: I've finished the course, I've run the race, and there's a crown of life laid up for me, and not only for me but for everybody else that's doing this. And I think if we can say that at the end of our life, I think it's going to be, we've got wondrous things to look forward to. And that whole thing about, that there was a song about I Can Only Imagine, but the illustration that Jesus gives with Lazarus when he died about the angels coming and carrying him off and all like that, I've wondered a lot of times. I can't imagine what that's going to feel like when we've crossed over and that happens. So we've got wonderful things to look forward to in spite of a lot of the difficult times of things like that's going on in the meantime. So I hope that's some encouragement to all of us. Let's pray before we dismiss. Father, just thankful for your promises. Thankful, Father, that you've gone to prepare a place for us and that you're waiting for us. And Father, just help us to realize that the wonders that you have, that eyes can't behold and the ears, and that we can't explain even the wonders of what you've got prepared for us. And Father, just help us to be comforted and reassured with all of that. We pray for Beth and for Jim Shaver and for the Medills and for everybody else today that are under distress and with physical, and also, Father, for the psychological things and the spiritual distress that people are in. We just pray that you'll help and comfort them and help us all to be a light and example to all of them. We ask things in Christ's name. Amen. That's one other thing. This doesn't just apply to physical stuff too. There's a lot of people that's under psychological distress and other things like that need help as much as the physical stuff. And so just be aware of the people around you that need help and be willing to help them. Thanks for listening and allowing me to rant.